right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Baroque. Welcome to the Wanda Coleman Theater. My name is Quentin Ring. I am Beyond Baroque's Executive Director. And we're very excited tonight because this is the launch of a new series, The Golden Mean. Poets from the USC PhD program in Creative Writing and Literature and from the broader community as well. So yes, please give it up. We're thrilled to be launching this program. Before we get into it, I just want to say a few words about Beyond Baroque. I'd like to begin by acknowledging our presence here on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. As an arts organization, Beyond Baroque acknowledges the wrong done to indigenous peoples through settler colonialism, societal practices, and the violent dispossession of their land. And we are committed to uplifting indigenous writers, their narratives, and their art. For those of you who don't know too much about Beyond Baroque, we are actually Los Angeles' oldest literary institution. We were founded in 1968 on the corner on Abbot Kinney. We moved here in 1979. This is the original Venice City Hall. Venice was annexed by LA in the 20s, and eventually the city turned it over to us as a space for poets and writers. And we exist to support writers generally and poets specifically. We do that in a variety of ways. We have a workshop program, including our free Wednesday night poetry workshop, which has been running continuously since 1969. Everyone from this theater's namesake, Wanda Coleman, to Amy Gersler, Dennis Cooper, all the way down to quite a few others over the years, went through that workshop, got their training in it, and went on to have pretty wonderful careers. We also have paid workshops as well on the weekends, typically. Just next Saturday, we have a workshop with William Archila. Later in the month, we have one with Sarah McClay, and then we have an online workshop starting with Brendan Constantine in April, encouraging everybody to write a poem a day across the span of National Poetry Month. And of course, we have a reading and performance series right here in this theater. We have about 100 events a year here, principally poetry readings, sometimes talks, sometimes discussions, sometimes fiction, nonfiction, sometimes we have plays, we have film, we have dance. So it's very much a space for writers and poets to engage with the arts more broadly, and really encourage folks to come and check out what we're offering and get immersed in the literary community. We do have a few other programs coming up that we just kind of want to highlight. I mentioned William Archila earlier. We're having his book launch tomorrow as well. Things will be a little quieter throughout the rest of the month up until AWP, when I know a lot of you will be attending events, but we will be hosting a program in downtown LA with a bunch of other small presses, What Books Press and Martillo Press and others on March 27th, a sort of big lineup of writers for that. And then on Friday, March 28th, we'll be launching our own new anthology, Poetry Goes to the Movies, right here at Beyond Baroque, which is just about 100 poets writing about and engaging with writing in reaction to the movies. Everyone from Rita Dove to Michael Ondaatje to many, many local poets, some of whom are here tonight. So that should be very exciting. So please do come back for that. Check out what we're doing. Literary arts right now are, like most of the rest of American society, under a little bit of attack, I would say. We have big questions about what's going to happen with federal funding and with funding in general. So we do ask for the support of our community. If you're able to give it, we offer memberships at Beyond Baroque as little as $75, $60 for students, $75 for regular membership, $100 for dual membership. It goes a long way towards helping us pay writers, towards supporting the space, keeping things going. If you do become a member, you can do so in the bookstore this evening. We do offer a couple premiums. One is if you become at the individual level, you get one of these. If you become at the dual level, you get both. We offer the Writing Life, which is a collection of memories and writing prompts and thoughts about writing from writers who've gone through Beyond Baroque over the years. And then if you want a little bit of literary history beyond that, we also have Baki, which is a legendary literary magazine from the 1970s that published all of the great writers in LA at the time, or almost all of them. So please do become a member if you're interested, and we appreciate your support. That being said, I just want to say a few words of thanks. I want to, first of all, thank our staff, Eric Alberg, who's running things in the booth, Jimmy Vega, our associate director, Yvonne Salinas, our programs manager, Genesis Perez, our bookstore assistant, and Nick Foreman, our programs intern. They keep the place running. I want to thank especially the USC PhD program in creative writing and literature, because they are sponsoring this event and this series. So we'll be going on quarterly. It's really just a big deal to have the sponsorship. It's allowed us to make the program free. We often have to charge. So big thank you, particularly to David St. John, who helped suggest this program in the first place, as well as to everyone in the department. I'm extremely grateful to you. But my biggest thanks is to our host for the evening, Liz Johnson, who is a graduate of the USC program in creative writing and literature, and just has been a big part of the community here, is a brilliant poet herself. And she had the great idea to really put together a series that places the program, poets in the program, in dialogue and reading with the wider community. As an institution that's sort of, helped shape Los Angeles poetry over many decades now, I'll say that this PhD program really has had a massive impact on LA literary life. There's just a huge constellation of talent, and like brilliant poets have come through it. And I think one of the things I'm excited that we're finally doing is sort of formally making sure that those poets are out in our community and getting a chance to read with other folks. And I hope this series and other series like it can continue to flourish. And so I won't say too much more other than to say thank you, Liz. And let's give it up for Liz Johnson, who's going to be your host tonight. Oh, yes, so we have books for sale as well. Please buy them after the show. Thank you. Liz Johnson.
Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you, Quentin, and the whole Beyond Baroque team. This has really been a place for me that is a home here, and I am so thrilled to be able to bring my friends and other people that I know and admire in the city to come read as part of it, to try to make Beyond Baroque a home for even more people. I think it's really an amazing thing that happens here. There's nothing else like Beyond Baroque, and I'm just so grateful to be starting this series, and thank you all so much for everything. And I'm thrilled to introduce our readers tonight. We'll start with Alexandria Hall. She is the author of Field Music, a winner of the National Poetry Series. She holds an MFA from NYU and is currently a PhD candidate at USC. She was a founding editor of Tele and now co-hosts the podcast You Shouldn't Let Poets Lie to You. Her work has appeared in the Bennington Review, LARB, the Yale Review, and other publications. And she, of course, lives here in Los Angeles. Alexandria.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks, everybody. The joke. I raised my glass. I laughed. Was a gas. A loss. I left myself sometimes. A lot. The din. The world is loud. One learns to drown it out. The surfacing of little scraps I unforgot. I dully yearned to cease, but only blanked. To lean towards naught and still resound. Then down into a sticky dark, a sorry beast, a petty hell. Oh well, a gag, a lark, to that a toast, we're on a roll. How droll. I laughed. I raised my glass. I laughed. I thought I would read an old poem and some new poems, but I'm just going to read new poems tonight. Keep it fresh, yeah. And by new, I mean not in the book. Some of them are kind of old, but no, they're mostly quite new. Belong. To memory, to my mother, to the morning when I wake up to remembering her as she was in my youth, dancing with her hair swept across her face, or one of her nights, grinning in the dining room, saying, I know you, I know your secret, to secrecy, or more accurately, privacy, to instinct to privation, to indulgence, to another bottle of wine, To the pavement I hit falling from the cab again. And all right, most prosaically, to my friends, clumsily. And to my husband, though not always fluently. And to my dog, unequivocally. But also to exposure, or, more accurately, disclosure. But not to accuracy, per se, and not to much in perpetuity. And anxiously to my father, though not to the haze of smoke in his trailer, which is drowning him, and which permeates my clothes, so that immediately after every visit, I have to throw them in the wash or wear them, smelling traces of great harm. To guilt, to St. Peter's Catholic Church, Regents, 1989 to 2003, but not to the ranks of those who made it through their confirmation. To laughter, mostly, and music, which possess and consume, which link my body to another or blot me out to nothing but moments. Some so saturated they seem to pierce through the rest of it. And when I remember them, the good ones, I feel like my gut is knitted to something outside, and it's almost too much. When I was deciding what to read tonight, I was thinking about like being in relation to others, but also I realized I can't write about that without writing about very much being in one's own head. So that is kind of the through line here. New Year's. He says you've been crying. I can tell by the wet spot on your pillow. I say it was more like leaking. Just something eyes do. We danced inexpertly at the party, among his friends and family, two bodies taught by years of proximity to move forgivingly, in accord. A little stain of light like a watermark held on to the darkness. I watched it from the terrace. Life moved around me, as usual. Glasses clinked, arms embraced. In the lights, far away and unusually near. I am happy now, I thought. He says, do you want to talk about it? I say, it's just the rain. Sounds rose up from the town below, dogs barking at various distances. That was last week, New Year's, before we came home, before it came home to me at night in our bed, this feeling without object, and woke me. Before it left me again, as I know it will, as it is doing now. Visiting. My husband said, sometimes you treat yourself like a child, like there are things you shouldn't hear. I couldn't place it, but I heard him say it, and then later it was true in the living room at my mother's, and I left to fetch 3 quarts of strawberries. My father was too thin and said he didn't need a doctor, only $50, oil for the car. My aunt went off dialysis, so it's only a matter of time, was how every conversation on that topic ended. I'd meant to clear out all the old junk I'd kept so long in my childhood room, but the air was thick. I didn't. A thought came by the window in the humid green between rains. It was too large to enter, but like always, I could feel it there, against the glass, moving. This one, this is about the first time I met my older sister. Affiliation. When I imagined her, I hadn't figured a resemblance. She'd bear the traits of a man I'll never meet, or whom I might have met without knowing, will go on not knowing. Someone older than my mother, of whom she doesn't speak, and we know better than to ask. She'd been, at the time, 14. But when she did appear, she, much more than I, looked like my mother. Heart face, the smile turning almost downward at the edges. I'd searched the internet for tips on etiquette. What questions could I ask? What email sign-offs were appropriate to make it clear that she was welcome, wanted, without overstepping? We were strangers after all. But from our first meeting in the dark wooden dining room, where I was raised, and my brother was raised, and my mother was raised, and she was not, I loved her. The room was full, had always, it turns out, been full of griefs that were and that remained inaccessible to me. I felt, apart from abstract curiosity, no need to fathom them. They were not mine. Mine was the automatic sense of visceral affiliation. We, the rest of us, watched as they held side by side portraits of their first communions, nearly identical, 15 years apart. And knotted up amongst my mother's grief, there was, I think, a fear, the revenant, and terrifying, strange relief, unassimilable. These faces, beaming, speaking softly around the table. A family. Whose? Here, she said to my sister, let me, as she carved and served her a tender cut of meat. And I'll close with this one. Visiting. Tapered off the medication and drifted back into the fog. Pressure gathered into sudden downpour in the afternoons, and the sun came out in time to set. What do you want from me now? You, looking in. I don't drink like I used to, believe it or not. Around a table with the people I had loved so easily for years and called my friends. I loved them still, as if no silence stood between us. But it had, and having passed through silence, I could see more clearly now. Moisture making a halo around the porch light, ink and creases on their hands and faces, wet leaves slapping against windows in the warm breeze, flames engulfing Lydia's dried flowers strung beneath the boughs, the paths of single sparks rising toward the canopy or falling. I fell asleep alone outside the fog of habit. I came alive and fell asleep and came alive and drove home in the dark. I fell asleep in the room I slept in as a child. Thank you.
Those were so powerful. I love that affiliation one. Love it. Next, we have Elizabeth Metzger, the author of The Going Is Forever, forthcoming from Milkweed, and Lying In, as well as The Spirit Papers, the winner of the Juniper Prize for Poetry. Her poems have been published in the New Yorker, Paris Review of Poetry, American Poetry Review, and many other places. She is a poetry editor at the Los Angeles Review of Books. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Liz. And Alexandria, that was beautiful. I'm still in your words right now. I'm also going to follow suit and read new poems today, which, as you said, are not exactly new like today, but over the past few years. These poems will be part of the collection, The Going Is Forever, but that is coming slowly, not for about another year plus. So this is the first time I'm reading a lot of these, and usually I talk a lot. I usually talk a lot between poems to introduce them, and I'm going to try not to do that today and see what it sounds like to just let the poems kind of speak to each other. So we'll see how it goes. It's chronological across the book, but with a lot of gaps, obviously. With each bird flying, time is passing. Candled horses run across the dining table. I cannot take a bite before them. I cannot ride their passion. One child pulls herself onto my knee. The other is wrapping my arms to my sides with a scarf. If I can't be a bird, neither can you, he laughs, and the first child cries. For each life, there is another you can't have. It could have been better. I could have been generous. When the horses are gone and everyone's fed, the unflown life comes flying. I fall madly in love with mine. I was told not to break this microphone, but I think that's better. Okay. This title comes from William Blake, Late and Soon. How much longer can we ignore the mushrooms? Their shade is surprisingly matte with no complexity. Why one is larger than another, closer or farther apart, I no longer think has any significance for us, though so far we have let them live. Part of me despises them, but I can admit they are remarkably there for each other, consistent throughout the torrential rains, while I overbear you with new ways of telling our story. When the dirt turns to mud, their stance remains unchanged. I lurk in the doorway, changing my mind even on days I don't leave the room, harvesting the silence of our children at school. If I lock the door long enough, I hope you will break in. Nevertheless, the mushrooms multiply more and more now. From a distance, they are exactly what I wanted. Not an inconvenience, but a family, just without me. I think this one, the only thing you might want to know is that I don't drive, so my experience of LA is kind of unusual. And there's a reference to a neurological condition that you might know from other poems in the real manuscript that I have that sort of affects the way I walk in my legs. Mid-30s square dance. Walking home, God peeled a major eucalyptus to the ground. Genuinely uncertain, he asked, "Can a life be undone?" "Yes," I said. "You don't say no to God." A tendon in my left foot once ran all the way up my leg to the knee, but where it stops now, no doctoring hands can tell. At 34, I have ticked every box I set out to. My mistake was thinking I could be loved in little white squares. I fold corners of pages I try to read as I walk. They bounce off me like a metal sun. After dropping my daughter off, I am passed by those who can walk without thinking. God, since before I was born, your trees have pushed up under my soles, deforming my arches. How steep my urge for awe grows. My daughter echoes, "See you," after she passes the preschool gate and cannot see me. A variety of tree types do-si-do around me. Still human in appearance to others, I try not to show I am already outlived, standing very still on my threadbare, unmystical tendon with what awe actually is. Lord, I thought at least you'd be here. When the others knew you, I knew of you. Maybe you need to be reminded how we met, whether it was romantic. Make it better, I hear you singing with my ear. Make it better, make it better. When I lay next to you in life, only you had the life. Already you survived me. Death, after all that forethought, is so green in the dark like a wet kiss. But Lord, I would give you up still for a person. This one's for my son. Don't make me. When I told you the crab on the beach was dead, you asked me, "What's dead?" I said, "This is his shell," but you must have heard soul, a year-long misunderstanding. A summer later, unable to sleep, you said, "No, you told me the body's the part that goes, the soul stays." And I said, "No, you have it backwards. The shell stays and becomes the beach again." I waited for you to ask after the soul where the crab goes, practiced in my head, an inconsolable hour, I don't know, or nowhere, scraping my mortal voice like bright meat, when suddenly you shot up from the covers, done crying. So the going is forever? As we made him. It's his 4th birthday again in the land of forgetting. Humongous balloons sway and pop in the wind. The trick candles pop and sway as I pass them in front of his breath. I have such a sweet tooth for family, I deny he is missing. Regression means he is closer to where we made him. Thin mist from his first night home from the hospital still haunts us. Sometimes I sleep in the position I was in when we made him. French blue curtains in the guest house lit our skin blue. Sometimes I hang off the bed for an hour after, longing to return to his birth or before we made him. It's his 4th birthday, and the candles trick us again. A few balloons reinflate from their shiny, torn skins. Impossible. The mist hides nothing, leaves us. Ordinary sky closes in. I am so afraid I'll leave, then haunt my family. I kiss and kiss them. If he were to forget us, would we still be the ones who made him? And the last one I'll read takes place at a restaurant that you may have heard of in LA in West Hollywood called Horses, and the poem is called Dinner at Horses. A hologram of a horse galloping makes me anxious. It can't stop going nowhere. How can I walk past it? We are late, led through the sexes to a quiet courtyard where I see a baby carriage, not the baby. Nobody cries for me at Horses. We are seated between 2 couples. On my left, a man rubs his hands between his knees. On my right, a man tells a woman every 5 years something almost kills him. A metaphor sometimes, once a heart attack, often his own unfaithfulness. She hums in understanding, which seems to heat him like a lamp. Why does her acceptance of him make me lonely? More than you, I blame the moon behind your head. More than you, nothing is enough for me. More than crying, you hand me no napkin. You say the way I look at you is all disgust now. I say you never look at me at all. The server places butter down in the shape of a horse head. I melt the horses. On all the tables, horse heads melting, our not speaking, my eyes running nowhere. You leave the table and come back, slicing the air between us. Your hand rests there. I shake it. The valet slips our tip into his pocket. As we drive, you say, one question. Did we stop loving, or did we never really love right in the first place? More than before, we exist after Horses. After Horses, we share the way for years we haven't. We say life, in spite of us, led here. We talk of trying, bad timing, our kids, their constant stretching bodies of forgiveness. After Horses, we list ways we've changed, offer the last moments we felt sure. We are so clean with grief. By the time we reach our house, it is not ours. Thank you.
I'll bring your phone too, but those poems were wonderful. I know them so well, and so I haven't heard them all together in their new form, and they read so beautifully. So thank you, Elizabeth. Next we have Nick Molbert, a poet from South Louisiana. His first book, Altars of Spine and Fraction, came out last year from Northwestern University Press. His work appears in the Cincinnati Review, the Greensboro Review, Mississippi Review, and many other places. He holds a PhD from the University of Cincinnati and an MFA from the University of Illinois. He's working on a second book-length manuscript about the coastal communities and landscapes where he grew up. Nick.
Thanks, Liz, for organizing, and Beyond Baroque for hosting, and everybody for being here. I will not be reading new poems. Liz convinced me that since my book just came out in September, I should read poems from this book. So this book is very much, as you heard in my bio, about South Louisiana, growing up in South Louisiana, about family, childhood, and kind of the rites of passage that young men from the South carry with them. This first poem is called Overture. What now to praise? The gulls call and the canals answer. Another lane eaten by the encroaching coastline. The woman pushing her station wagon to the last pump left in town. New days subside and slide under the old. Landscapes turn to elegy. Natural disaster is damn near a priest pondering a break from vows under silent wind chimes of Nikes strung from power lines. This town is strained to keep out the bad, and the boxed up good is just shipped out. We say it must be good if no one's talking, purely out of habit, as if tradition is the one spark left. But praise what's here. Claim it for the kingdom of memories made sacred. What small talk before the death pause is this? The t-shirt slung around the willow is a half-assed flag at half-mast. It whips a sound threatening to become my name. There's a lot of football and fishing and other things, as well as love in this book. This poem is about one thing I loved as a kid, video games, and one thing I hated as a kid, fighting. It's called Box. Give me an Xbox instead of a toolbox or tackle box still. With my pixelated boxer, I will bang the faces of shit talkers because I was not myself ready years ago to be disgraced by the fisticuffs, the hurricane rush uppercuts of high school hierarchies. After athletic PE, unpadded, we gathered under the football stadium's bleachers, but I only refereed. My fingers counted to a blurry 10. Standing did not depend on how incessantly you mashed buttons, and more than your hands rumbled when socked. We stood like tackle dummies. We didn't clap or console. We staggered like foals. We flung fists like joysticks. We stood quick, or tried, no matter how battered. We rematched because blood meant risk. We each brought a clean change of clothes. When it was done, one of us uncoiled the hose. Parable of baiting. Time passed slow as a fishing trip. I cast it away from where you suggested, excused it as saving all bites for you. I steered clear for fear that my beginner's luck might pluck a throat from the throng swarming the boat's belly. If I was scared of some damn trout I could stop from flopping underfoot or palm, what else would scare me? Baiting minnows half the size of the trout that would eat them. It was not that they are hard to hold, more that tethering them to a hook meant piercing what felt like plastic in their throats. Because I cared more about showing I did not care about hurt, I baited minnow after minnow, punctured their throats with a click to the point of praying for a better way. So I closed my hands around them, again and again, wound my fingers around them tight as a high drag reel. They gave to my grip. When you caught me baiting dead minnows, you told me to throw them over. When the next were just as still, you watched me closer, hushed, as to not scatter what life still flitted underneath. You told me to be gentler. What else did I expect? So I have a lot of poems that involve family, my father, as that last one was about, and also my sister, who me and my sister did some dangerous things that we didn't know were dangerous as kids. So here's a poem about that. It's called Small Bodies. We dipped our toes into the water, my sister and I. We let parts of our bodies disappear, and the way one thing leads to another slip in farther. Our feet, our ankles, legs, up to the knee, our thighs. It wasn't enough anymore to stand on the wharf and look out at the canal. We started to play dead. In minutes, we both lay on the coast and allowed the tide to wash over our bodies. We knew no metaphors for water, but we believed whatever we rehearsed was about something being given, then given back. The second half of the book, the speaker of the poems moves locations away from Louisiana and falls in love. So, as you know, baggage from childhood and family is never shed, even if you form new relationships. So I'll read two more. These last two poems are, I think, love poems. On the canal. As half of the sun becomes the whole sun, I decide to say not half, but the whole thing. We note the beauty silently. The hound understands the angle of ball after tennis ball, the straightest path. The topwater shimmers oil and polyethylene moves with the canal toward its emptying. You point to the trash caught on the piling of the wharf, spinning with the current. To note beauty, we must look away. What else do I ignore to point out the reddening doily stenciled on your chest by your complicated sports bra? I'm trying to be less serious about serious matters. It's much easier when we have spatters to worry about, mosquitoes' insides turned out by our palms. Bumps and splotches on shins and shoulders. We survey ourselves in the mirror before we head to bed, reminded of the bites just as we've forgotten them. We shudder and wonder what else we might have done to ourselves. And I haven't read poems that kind of meditate on what work signifies in a man from the South, but you find out the lover in these poems is a doctor, a physician, and yeah, this is a poem about that. It's called Cup Licking. Only after people have heard this poem. I try not to read it, but I can't help myself. Cup licking. Only after leaning over the couch's chasm between my beloved and me to lick the coffee hugging the side of her favorite mug, Dr. S is at your cervix. Did I remember this licking is not acceptable, not delightful everywhere. For example, in Catholic Mass, after you sip the blood from the chalice, and you might, like me, not always be the best sipper with an audience of humans, yes, but also the Lord's legions of angels, archangels, patron saints, punching hours, manning helplines, the saints I bothered with tasks of retracing my steps toward my umpteenth lost house key. Sorry also to you, human whose name I do not know, whose eyes I stare into and say amen as I bow my head Sunday after Sunday. Certainly you watched, because you are the holy human volunteer who handed me the chalice, who accepted that meager calling of turning and wiping it after each of us pins our germs to its lip. You saw me, without hesitation, tongue its gilded curvature, as if it were, and forgive me for saying this, the smooth give of my beloved's earlobe. And given how long I spent giving a shit about intimacy and its witnesses, I should have space to say, whose tongue has not at least once been where it's not supposed to be, goddammit? Who, because having not admitted this aloud, has not been slicked by shame, stiffened to inaction? Oh, patron saint of digression, hear me out. I did not mean to land here. But if there be in your ranks an unemployed patron saint, let me propose a vocation for them. Patron saint of a love that when this love so moves the lover to a desire verging on cannibalism, cannot help but say, I could just. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, for the laughter we all needed. I'm so glad you read Small Bodies. That's one of my favorite ones in the book. Next, we have Chris Santiago, who is the author of Tula, the winner of the Lindquist and Benham Prize, and finalist for the Minnesota Book Award, and has a forthcoming book, Small Wars Manual, coming next month, published by Milkweed Editions. Recent poems have appeared in Poetry Magazine, Poetry Northwest, Beloit Poetry Journal, and many other places. Many things in this bio that are all very impressive. Chris received his PhD from USC and recently joined the faculty of the CalArts Creative Writing Program. Chris.
Did I give you the long version? Oh, sorry, should have been the short version. Thank you for having me. I've never read up Beyond Baroque, so this is super exciting. And in the spirit of newness, I'm going to read a poem that's so new it's in pencil. And I just decided on a title like about an hour ago, or a couple hours ago. So I moved back to Los Angeles a little over a year ago. And when I was at USC, one of my colleagues there, Lisa Locasio, said, you know, you can't control where you end up having a job teaching. But I was fortunate enough to get a job in the place where I grew up, the Twin Cities. So this poem comes from that time. Cumulonimbus. The first time your son gets hit by a pitch, you know what kind of father you are. Your father was mild and oblivious. Once he forgot to pick your brother up from Little League. When your brother finally got home, he turned his tears on you. The few times he got really mad, both of you cowered under the sheet, even though your brother could throw smoke already, 6th grade and 50 miles an hour. Mostly he raised his voice, made threats, like the father's clawing at the fence and glaring at the teen umpire, doing his best. But now you run to him. He's down, folded into himself, like a broken umbrella, like a length of rainproof machinery in a place that never rains. Though the ball thumped his sternum with such force that in the bleachers, even the meanest parents groaned. He doesn't cry. And for that, I'm filled with shame. What kind of weather have I been? Look at all the Little League dads, the dead serious, the ones who want nothing but for their sons to love the beauty of the game. To be roped back into the town you grew up in is like climbing out of the driver's side door of a wreck. You don't yet know what it is you've hit. A deer, a boy on a bike. I wanted to read a poem from Tula because I wrote it at USC, and my Dr. Vater is here. That's a word I learned when I was there, which in German, if you get your PhD, your PhD advisor is called your Dr. Vater, which sounds super cool. German is so cool that way. But after hearing your poem, that wonderful poem, Cup Licking, I'm going to read this poem. It's called Virginity. I think it's not funny, but it's in the same spirit, I think. Virginity. It fit too tight, tailored too close, like something you wear with your hands crossed, lips sewn shut. I didn't want to wait the way I believed my father had. He was clean like Christ was supposed to make us. Although I'd steal into his bathroom while he worked the night shift and rifle Playboys out from under the sink. It was a wonder to find sex had less to do with me than I'd thought. She kicked aside the curtain, saw a red rose, while I came early and watched her face. Then I envied my father, my parents, their garden with no names, or even metaphors for skin. The river between the trees. So I have a book coming out next month, which is really exciting, and it's crazy. I don't have an arc yet, so I have like pages here, but I'm going to read more than half of the book is an erasure, and I'll read those at the end, some of those erasures. And then other poems are old-fashioned poems written from a blank page. This is called Golden Age. It used to embarrass me when my father talked back to the TV. Since my mother died, he doesn't talk anymore, but falls asleep enwombed by voices, anchors, procedurals, the invisible labor of Foley artists. My teacher gasped when the Challenger exploded on live TV. We had to wait for the screen to warm up from a white-hot pinprick of light. It was so heavy, the librarian warned it could crush us. We watched as the column of smoke split in two. Gasp comes from the Old Norse, gespa, and shares a base with brag, bluster, and babble. My second week of teaching kindergarten, a girl came in and said she saw a plane on TV fly into a tower. By the end of the day, a colleague had rushed in and announced that we'd started to bomb Afghanistan. We are still bombing Afghanistan. My father turns the volume up to 77, 78. Each morning, I have to crank the volume back down. His hearing loss could be described as severe to profound. Still, he must feel bathed in those shifting backdrops, those faces, profound from the Latin for before the bottom. In order to remember what to capitalize in McAuliffe, I think of how it contains the chemical symbol for gold. The crew of the Challenger were likely conscious the whole way down. The noise of the television soothes everyone on the other side of the house. It tells us someone is watching, but not watching us. Not the room where we can finally make love undetected. I was taught to be silent when praying. She was taught to pray out loud, the way our sons threw up their hands when we could solve any unhappiness by lifting them. Up, they would say. Up. I want to lay like this a little longer, before getting up, before erasing all traces of intimacy. Sometimes I go back out and pour my father a finger of Jura, and he pretends he hasn't been sleeping. I've been doing this since I was a boy, sneaking out after bedtime and over my father's shoulder, watching the Cold War unfold. The atomic number for gold is 79. God, he says, when there's a protest, a wildfire, a shooting. God, as though there were someone else in the room. As I mentioned, a lot of the poems, most of the poems in Small Wars Manual are an erasure of a military manual that's actually called the Small Wars Manual. It's a U.S. Marine Corps document that was written in the aftermath of the Banana Wars, Border Wars, and the Philippine-American War, which is why I was interested in it. And it's really a manual for intervention and how to mess with foreign governments. So I wanted to erase it, right? As a, but I did it in such a way where I started atomizing the words and pulling a letter here and a letter there and skipping over whole pages to sort of find words that I was starting to hear in my ear. So each of the titles is the name of a chapter, and that was my limit. I had the chapter, and by the time I got to the end of the chapter, that was the end of a poem. So I had that much running room to find a poem. 6.1, Infantry Patrols, Small War Tactics. Most of the body is rain. Is it raining on the cities and towns, on the Pacific and the defenseless hereafter? It was evening all day. Thunders strafed the roofs of churches and hothouses. 3.3, Logistics. Distance to a camel is but one form of memory. like the weight of aviaries, dead lakes, cities without roads. Distance to the mule is work. For the horse, it's a kind of detachment. Bulls use distance to careen and lash. For a gun, it is an instant. For the spider, crude conversion. To a tree, it's a system of thought approaching language. (14.1) Supervision of elections. If the President of the United States overturns an election, if he overturns majority rule, if the President of the United States overturns a teacup, a hurricane, if he overturns Mexico and the division of present from past, if he railroads a virus through the House, if the police cannot be depended upon and the golden rule is rescinded by executive order, then the manual is not a manual, but a map found in an attic, the continents too large, too close, or missing entirely, the shorelines garbled and beset by serpents. 1.5 Introduction. On the shores of an unfamiliar country, trust the impulse for analogy. Each to each, and else to elsewhere. To call the world an ocean is an error. The world is an island, and you are half shipwreck, half siren. 4.5 Training. The too long didn't read version. Peacetime is the training period. War is the performance. My children have never seen war. It is also true that they have never lived without it. I'll end here. This is the end of the book, these last few poems. 5.2 Initial operations, movement inland. Inland are cities of light, sprawling machines that can traverse the past. By means of light, one can touch the beginning of time itself. It is a column of fire, impenetrable, bent to the body like an opera containing the sea. The rolling sea minus the gondolas. The engine is made of singing. Thank you.
Those are so amazing. I can't wait for the new book. I mean, yeah, can't wait. Last up, we have Jorrell Watkins, who is from Richmond, Virginia. He received fellowships from the Smithsonian Institution, Fulbright, Japan, and the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown. His chapbook, If Only the Sharks Would Bite, won the inaugural Desert Pavilion chapbook series in poetry. And his debut full-length collection, Playhouse Poems, was recently published by Northwestern University Press. Jorrell.
I'm going to adjust the microphone. Probably don't need it. I want to first and foremost thank everyone for coming out on a Friday night for poetry. I really appreciate y'all for being here. I want to thank the space Beyond Baroque. This is a lovely venue, my first time here, so I'm glad to be here. And I also want to thank my fellow poets for reading with me tonight. It's been an honor to read poems, and also Liz for inviting me here to read my poetry. I'll be reading from my debut collection, Playhouse Poems. I'm also a press mate with Nicholas, so pleasure to, do this again. Sugar. I'll fall for everything with pulse. Some dog licking its tail, its owner, on the sidewalk slab we share, not speaking or thinking about the underneath which moves, even when we settle. For anything with teeth I'll surrender. Rake my account of coin offering on site moment of. There was a word for this. I swallowed it, forgot its shape and music. I've lost touch and sound mind. I keep putting hands in pockets and wonder why everything I touch dries. I gotta stop acting like I ain't never did nothing. Somebody rattled me to their rhythm, spun me in, just took me in and rushed me in and gave and sweet Jesus. I ain't never done nothing. Fall into something greater, dissolve in the awe of being in, losing and gaining everything. So this next poem, I'll speak a little bit about the collection. So a lot of the poems in Playhouse are contending with gun violence, violences that I witnessed as a child. And this next poem, taking me back to my adolescence, actually when I was 12 years old. My brother 14, I'm 12. We were at a sleepover at a friend's house, and he had just gotten a new BB gun. And he decided that my brother and I would be perfect for target practice. So this is a poem about that experience. Sleepover at Richard's backyard. Pollen coats everything uncared for. My sleepless arms yoke my brother Joseph Colonel. I believe sun must watch and wood hold sound. What Will's voice? One end of yard pit barks, sloshes saliva, settles amalgam. Front of us, Rich, holding his BB gun. Orange nozzle, pried off, jet black, absent light. His humor, Rich fires shells at our feet. Our knock-off kicks gush melted plastic, crush ant heels beneath. His aim compacts, chest, gut, shin. Joseph hoists his faded glory. No avail, he faints. I'm stuck, unlearning movement. I steal until pellets flip me, out of footing, outward light. Did sun just blink? Magnolia soaks inaudible. Golden eye splay, pit licking its silver. Rich reloads my brother, unhusked as dirt. This next poem is right here, so I'll read it also the same time. A poem for Black Boy Joy. Of the white tee, bruh, ain't a new white tee the most necessary dress to boom a black boy's joy? Don't he look so fresh and clean? His white tee nearly kisses his knees. Veiled by his name brand jeans was out of the heels of his Air Force Ones. Ain't this the gown for him to stroke down the block? Past shorties rocking hoops around their hips and ears. Past homies fixing a J and the laces of their J's. Past junkies sucking the blues from a bottle of needle dry. Want those folks dazzled by his gleam. Yo, don't he almost glow into an angel before a soul street light shines a halo out of the basketball rim under which other white tees will join him in tossing the rock once swung between the archway of someone's legs, then flung from half court by a tee who's too short to play center but has a jumper that makes the whole backboard thunder. Don't their bird chests swell for a moment of breathlessness, feeling free in their white tees from the description that matches them all? These boys flock away as doves at the burst of noise that sounds like anything but their joy. There are a lot of father-brother poems in this collection. Next collection, there'll be a lot of mother poems that will be maybe 4 years from down the road, but we'll see about that. Back to my brother. So this next poem, short one, is Hymn for Joseph. I apologize to anybody named Joseph in the audience tonight. No one named Joseph wants to be called such. Joseph resounds title, gauge consequence, guardian, husband, father. My brother inherited his name from our father, as did our papa. Our makers require us instruction in given name, obligation in family. Appraise love is labor. The firstborn accrues debt from their making. Anybody after, if there is an after, whelms them further in curse. I, with a strain of cuss, say Joseph. My brother won't hold Papa's filth. While he lifts to noise scored by his throw, I can't bear. And since I'm bringing up my father, I'll end with this poem dedicated to my father. Cut the grass. When you are standing over the mower, sweat sizzling in grease and sludge coalesced by evening sun, as she, with teeth brimming, hands you a rag, will you have cut the grass? When you apply WD-40 to blades, pour gasoline down pipe and yank machine to life, she'll tell you that you are hers and she is yours. When the grass no longer dances in the wind, crickets leap over anthills, roots sprawl about like thoughts of marriage and family, spring will come. If you want to be loved as blades of steel colliding with blades of grass, you must cut the grass. Cut the grass until crickets believe they're flying when they leap. Cut the grass and release the pheromones of combusted oil. Cut the grass and see fertile dirt that wants to nurture your seed. If you don't, the mower will rust under the fall of summer's rain. Thoughts a lost family will winter your soil. She'll hold the rag in her hands. The grass between you will grow dense as teeth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorrell. I love that cut the grass poem, so love hearing it again. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, poets. A round of applause again for all of our readers. This was a really amazing night, and thank you again, Quentin and Beyond Baroque, and all of you for being here, and books for sale in the bookstore. So see you all out there. Thank you.